you go in your chair, you can choose if you want music or not, if you want your red light on or not, and if you can open and close the curtains as you desire. So there are options to consider.
Who wants to open with a prayer?
Grandmothers, grandfathers, ancestors, teachers, protectors, and guides, we come to you today in our usual time and place, here to learn, to develop our mediumistic skills, to learn about physical mediumship and working with you on a physical level. We ask those who can come here to help us develop these skills, to come with love, healing, and empowerment. And we hold the circle against all else. Amen.
Amen.
Feeling a shift of energy back here.
I think I'm having nervous energy because I thought I saw eyes on Tiffany.
I saw that too.
Okay.
Okay, Spirit.
You ready?
I'm ready.
In the summer of 2025, I went to my first art residency in a spiritualist community called Lilydale, New York. Now, Lilydale has been made famous from the HBO documentary No One Dies in Lilydale. It is the largest community of spiritualists in North America, I believe maybe anywhere in the world. Spiritualism is the belief that there is continuity of life after death, that we can speak to the dead, connect with them, learn from them, and work with them. On average, there's, I think, about like 200 residents there. But during the summer, which is what they call the season, they have up to like 20,000 guests that come through. And people come for readings, for public demonstrations, and to just be in this very vortexy, beautiful, idyllic, practical, magic-y town. Highly suggest you visit Lilydale, especially during the season. And also, I'm going to link to the art residencies that are happening in Lilydale, the one I attended, which was Normalized Talking to the Dead, and then also the fabulous coffee shop there called Sacred Grounds. Shout out to Stacey and Michelle. I stayed at Sacred Grounds for a couple days while I was there. They also have their own art residency, and I'll put the Google Doc there so you can apply for their 2026 seasons. Now, I went to Lilydale to do an art residency working on reimagining the Sabian symbols. The Sabian symbols are 360 images associated with each degree of the zodiac wheel. It was conceived in 1925 by an astrologer named Mark Edmund Jones and a spiritualist medium named Elsie Wheeler. I love the Sabian symbols. I love that they add depth to astrology, sort of like in a tarot way. You know, in astrology, we don't really have much imagery, and I'm a visual person. Of course, we have the natal chart, but when I say imagery, I mean like a tarot card, right? Like when you pull the tower, it's like fuck, bang, boom. In astrology, I know what this visual image looks like, but a lot of the times a client, whoever's sitting with me, just sees a bunch of lines and shapes, and it doesn't really bring a message. So the Sabian symbols were conceived in 1925. Then in the 70s, they were expanded upon in a psychological sort of way from Dane Rudier. Kind of gave it like a more like journey through the whole zodiac wheel, but they never really been fully freshly revamped. And for me, maybe it's because I'm a modern girly. Maybe it's because of my 11th house stellium. I was like, why can't the Sabian symbol be an unread text message? Why can't a Sabian symbol be condensation on an iced coffee? Also, some of the old Sabian symbols are can be a little racisty, prejudice, outdated. Also, since it's 1925, some are like a plow. It's like, no offense to plows, but there's so many new worldly images that could be used and reflected on and used as a tool. So that's what I did. I went to Lilydale. I spent 2 weeks there downloading, channeling, creating what I've dubbed the Stevie symbols. Let me know what you think of the name. Current name. Is it too self-indulgent? We'll find out. But hey, they are my symbols. And I want anyone to be able to use the Stevie symbols. So this will be coming to you soon. Let's fingers crossed for next year. I'm going to work with the design team. It's going to be a deck. This is the vision for it. But my residency was to write them and create them and craft them. So I wrote 360 new symbols. What I didn't know what I'd be doing during my art residency was attending my first séance. When I arrived in Lilydale, I came a few days early to meet Tiffany, the host of the residency, before she left because I was staying in her house as part of the residency. And she mentioned if I got to town a little bit early that I could join their weekly Wednesday seance. Me like, yes, please. Seances are a ceremony group setting where you do attempt to connect with the dead, talking to the dead. So I arranged that. I arrived in town early. Pre-season, their summer season is when everything kicks off during like the summer solstice. So I was there in early June before everything got really like busy and buzzy. I love my time in Lilydale. I was getting plucked off the street in these like 8 square blocks all the time. One day, these women were like, "Do you want to watch a night blooming primrose with us?" And I was like, "Yes, I do." So I just sat and watched a flower on the street for a few hours. And it did night bloom. It was so cool. Another night, they had a little party and I got my tea leaves read. It was just a time in my life that I'll never forget. And making these Lilydale diaries has been on my list since I got back home and thrusted back into life here in Los Angeles. Lucky for me, for their own research, the Seance Circle records their seances. So I do have audio clips from my first seance that is going to be woven into this episode. And you may have already heard some clips now. My first seance was really something I just had never experienced before. I went in very open minded, very curious. And what I can say is I definitely experienced paranormal, mystical, magical things that I had not experienced previously and that are hard to explain. But the cool part of a seance, and which we'll get into about evidential mediumship, is that I had other people there who also experienced what I was experiencing. I am going to reflect with my guest, Tiffany Hopkins, medium, futurist, author. I also talked with Thom Daly, who led our seance. He is a spiritualist medium who also resides in Lilydale. Enjoy my conversation with Tiffany and with Thom. I would highly recommend watching the video version of this episode because Thom does show us some of the interesting tools that we use during the seance. And this is a reminder too, it's covered in the episode, but in Lilydale, when you go see a medium, you can only go see a registered medium in the town. Thom and Tiffany are spiritualist mediums. However, they are not Lilydale registered mediums. So that's my disclaimer. Lilydale has a registry of the registered mediums that are there. It's a whole process, maybe an episode for another time, which it sounds like we'll probably do more. Happy Halloween. Happy spooky season. This episode is my first seance, the Lilydale Diaries. So enjoy my reflection, conversation about seances and talking to the dead with Tiffany Hopkins and Thom Daly. Star quality. I got it. I got this. You got it. You got it. My chart says so. Look at me go. Sun moon rising. It's all about time. It's all about time. Red lips. What's it all mean? What's it all mean? Star quality.
What's it all mean? What's it all mean? Mean.
Star quality. Woo. No, dude, really, what does it all mean? I got it. You got it. We got it. Star quality. I'm really grateful, thankful to see an old familiar face. Last time I saw my guest, we were in a seance closet of sort in a dark room with a single red light bulb. Loving seeing friend, spiritualist, medium. Is that accurate to say? Thom Daly.
Good to see you again, Stevie. Thanks for inviting me to talk and participate in this podcast.
So thankful for everybody I met in Lilydale. You're one of my like true, I think we talked about your background, maybe in Eagle Scouts or something. You're like my true camp counselor of Lilydale. Came early to Lilydale because I heard word of a seance and Thom was the leader of that seance. And what a seance it was. Thom records these weekly seances that you conduct with your Lilydale residents. Is that correct?
Yeah, we have a home circle.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't listen back to all the recordings, so you might have to remind me of exactly what happened. But it's more for archival purposes, or if something happens that we want to check and see, how did that go down? And we can
Those listening at home, I'm just curious, like how are you in your seat right now? Like, how did you get involved with spiritualism? What is spiritualism, and what set you on this path that you're on?
Spiritualism, I call it a tradition, but it's a science, it's a philosophy, it's a religion based on the continuity of life, survival of consciousness after the change called death. I've been studying now. I got into it over the pandemic, so about 5 years, coming up on 6 years. It doesn't mean it hasn't been in my life.
Right.
My first trip to
this is what set it off is during that time period.
That was the awakening.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't aware of any kind of psychic faculty or anything like that in my life until kind of like that Great Awakening happened. I was aware of Lily Dale, but I didn't really connect it to spiritualism. I wasn't that engaged at that time. My first trip to Lily Dale was in 2009,
Mm-hmm.
senior in high school. It
Wow.
was just kind of back in the filing cabinet.
Yeah. Wait, what was the Great Awakening? Was there like a day that Great Awakening happened, or was there a moment that kind of flipped the light switch on?
Yeah, it would have been the fall of 2019. I had what I call now prophetic dreams.
Oh,
Back then, I was calling it a deja vu dream.
yeah.
Um, and it wasn't anything like super magnificent or extravagant or whatever. I was just having like little snippets of dreams where something would happen at work and someone would say something. I would go to work the next day, and
Hmm.
whatever happened in my dream would happen in real life.
Oh. So no, like you could have stopped COVID for us. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, yeah, sure.
And
Yeah,
prophetic dreams being just really laying out, maybe if this is someone super one-on-one prophetic, like a prophet, like you're kind of seeing the future. Is that safe to say?
predictive or precognitive, I guess is a better
Mm-hmm.
word for it. And that just kind of opened a door. I got on
Yeah.
Google and Wikipedia and started doing some research on stuff, got into all sorts of psychism and took a deep dive, bought a bunch of books, went to the local crystal shop, got some readings and stuff, and that kind of started the journey.
Just what's Lily Dale for someone whose first introduction is this? What's the energy? What's the vibe? Maybe even from when you first visited to now being a resident of Lily Dale.
Sure. Well, I'll give you the most abridged version possible. When the religion of spiritualism was really sweeping across the nation, it
Mhm.
wasn't very ecclesiastical. We didn't have a lot of churches, we didn't have priests or anything like this. We had meetings and gatherings. A lot of the time, what would happen is the locals in the community, here in Western New York, it was in the township of Casadega.
Mhm.
They would have these meetings in fields and they would pitch tents and bring hay for the horses and do the whole thing, get together and talk about what is this philosophy of life after death? What is the science of mediumship? Is it true? Is it not? There was a lot of open discussion. And it just kind of snowballed from there. They became summer gatherings and it became like an annual thing. And
Oh.
eventually, the tents would become little cottages or shanties or whatever. And eventually now we have like these pretty grand Victorian homes.
I mean, it's this beautiful town.
And Lilydale seems to be the most popular one. It's the one that has survived quite a long time. But
Mhm.
they're at one time, Civil War era, they were across the whole country. You could find
Oh,
multiple spiritualist camps in almost every state in America. You don't have to be a medium to live in Lilydale, but you do have to be a spiritualist,
right.
um, which means being a member of a spiritualist church in order to join the assembly if you want to
Hmm.
be on the grounds or something. And
And
yes, there's many mediums. Some are registered or vetted
mhm.
by the assembly. Some are just citizens.
Okay, well, not that it's back to, it's all connected, but
Yeah.
spirit, what maybe we might call talking to the dead or communicating with people or beings in a way some of us might not even fully understand. What do you have like a memory of your first experience of that? I mean, was that in a seance? And yeah, I'm curious, like if you recall the first time, after having your awakening and then being like, okay, was there a first time that
Right.
connecting with spirit was really like, oh damn, I just did that really happened.
I'm a very skeptical person.
Mm-hmm.
I maintain that still today. That great awakening that I spoke of during the pandemic, that was more of a shifting or an attunement into psychism and just being aware of my own psychic senses that I believe everyone possesses, whether they are aware of it or not. It was shifting my awareness that there is things out there. Communication is possible, whether it's person to person, whether it's spirit to medium to person, all these different types of modalities. Once I was aware of mediumship and how it worked, I then realized, oh my gosh, kind of flashing back like memories in my life, like I remember after my grandma died that this thing happened. I was playing in the backyard behind the house, like things like that. You just
Yeah.
become aware. I'm like, oh, it all clicks, it all makes sense now. And it's just paying attention to those signs and symbols and that subtle communication, listening to the whispers when it happens.
You just took me back to a childhood memory. I think legend has it that children are a little more susceptible too, right? Like there's this innocence or even like with animals, right? Like it's like they can see and hear things that maybe we can't. But I don't think
Right.
I've ever shared this on the podcast before. But when I was a kid, I think I was 5. I was like coloring. I had like a huge locking doors issue. Like I always locked the door behind me to a point where my family was like, you can't keep locking doors. Like when you're in the bathroom, when you're this, like you might hit your head and die. Like, so please stop locking yourself into rooms. And
Thank
it's
you, of course.
like privacy, like leave me alone. And I remember I like locked this door and was coloring, but then the door opened, and this memory's like just so in me. I just remember being like, "Go away, Steven," and then the door slammed. And then later, I went to my mom and was like, "Steven was bothering me," and my mom like yelled at my dad. She's like, did you tell her about Steven? I had an older brother who passed named
Oh, wow.
Steven. That's why I'm Stevie. My dad's Steve. So that, and I had not been told. Now here, like zooming out, maybe did parents talk about it in the background and I heard it and it's subconsciously, sure. Again, I'm
That's a
also,
skeptical mind there. Yeah.
yeah, like I'm also, as an astrologer, I get all the time, what? So all Tauruses are like, so all this are, like, and I have to be like, no, there's nuance. And, and someone born in 1970 during Pisces season in Los Angeles is a little different than in Damascus, Syria, like we have also external circumstances. So feel the same. And I think that's also why I was like, felt so connected to people in Lilydale. I remember our first, because my husband Pablo did not join because he's a real skeptic, but we were talking after, and we'll get into seance stuff. But I remember, I think he asked in an innocent way, like, do people ask if this is a cult? And I remember you just said, well, we don't have a charismatic leader. And I
We don't. We definitely don't.
I just cracked up because I was
A lot
like,
of charismatic people, but definitely not
a lot of charming. Yeah.
Idolized figure. No.
So I can say here, I felt zero cult weird. Like everyone was shockingly very normal. And I think I was expecting everyone to almost be quote weirder as a person that likes weird. I mean, we did some weird stuff, not gonna lie, but yeah, that just took me on this rant. So thanks for being with me on that. But yeah, that was I forgot about that. Real.
Once you get into it and you take that deep dive, especially if you're moving into a spiritualist community or you're going to, like, your friends and family on the outside that might not fully understand what you're doing, they might be kind of curious, like, where's your money going? What are you doing?
Like, are you good? Blink twice. Psychics and mediums, because this comes up a lot with Lilydale and just with probably just general. I think they get used interchangeably a lot, but I'm just curious, maybe if you want to like set the record on the difference between the two, and especially since Lilydale's it's quite a defining feature for Lilydale.
Yeah, so it does get confused a lot because you see people using that term psychic medium. So for me, my understanding of it is that a psychism is person to person, like me to you, tapping into your aura, feeling your energy, talking about past, present, future, right? A medium is one who's sensitive enough to the vibrations of the spirit world and can bring through communication from the spirit world through their own psychic senses to a recipient.
I feel like what I observed and experienced in Lilydale was the mediums, because not everyone there is a spiritualist. There are many mediums there. And from the mediums, they're not themselves, I think, when they are doing mediumship, because they are like channeling whoever is on the other side. Is that safe to say?
I would argue the word channeling, but you're pretty
okay.
much...
Because channeling is also, I feel like, a big word probably with that. What's a better word?
Well, I just want to clarify, like, mediumship is communicating with the spirit world, but there's different classifications to mediumship. No matter which classification, you're always going to be in an altered state, whether you're doing mental mediumship, like what you see Lisa Williams doing on TV and YouTube and stuff. There's trance mediumship, which is very similar to channeling, but it's not channeling.
Okay.
And then there's physical mediumship, and that there's a whole lot of subcategories to that as well.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. Well, physical mediumship was what we experienced, a combo of physical mediumship and what would you say the other, like when people were talking in our seance, that would be like trance? Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So
you need a whole YouTube explainer series. I feel like you'd be a real killer, like 101.
For me, the difference between channeling and trance is a few different things. Channeling seems to be individuals of a higher consciousness, and thinking of people like Bashar and that.
I know Bashar. Yeah, Bashar is a funny one who I feel like is now very popular. Or like I see Bashar a lot come up.
There's a lot out there, right?
Yeah.
So that just seems to be a straight download, one direction, one communication. Trance mediumship, similar in that they are the spirits coming in are able to utilize the body of the medium facilitating and use those vocal cords to speak for themselves. However, it's more of a dialogue. There's a back and forth, there's a communication, questions and answers, and the spirit coming through is able to be identified, and there's evidence of their existence of a life here on Earth.
Right. So they were a human being at some point.
Correct. Yeah. You know that they were here on Earth. You can verify their existence, their history.
Right.
And you know that it's a genuine spirit communicating through. There's a lot of skepticism in the world of channeling in that. So I just wanted to
Oh, you're not over explaining nor mansplaining or any. I'm asking for these like hyper explanation. So I appreciate this because again, I left Lilydale being like I just experienced like a really wild thing I've never experienced before. And I'm processing this, but I'm also working on my project at the same time. And then I also just came back to my normal life after being in this very, I mean, is Lilydale a vortex? It kind of, I mean, it must be.
There's definitely energetic vortexes here for sure. And I got news for you. It never ends. There's always something more. You open up a box and it opens up other avenues for you to explore and learn about. So that's one of the most beautiful parts. You never stop learning. You're always in development.
Similar to astrology, I'm not some mouthpiece to God. Anyone can learn to speak the language of the stars. I think anyone, it sounds like, could tap into some form of mediumship if they want to.
Oh, absolutely.
Not like you're chosen by like, oh, they're born a medium or they're born an astrologer.
Oh, for sure. Some people are born with it. Some people have to consistently develop.
Right. Like someone could come more naturally, of course. And there's like anything like sports or cooking or, you know, like anyone might have some natural talents, but you can learn. I feel geometry twice. So if I can learn astrology, anybody can. And it just also shows if you're passionate about anything, I think you can learn it is my maybe not even a hot take, just a regular ass take, but
It's perfect example, like a athletic ability or musical ability. I mean, just about anyone can go up to a piano and pluck out chopsticks. But if you apply yourself and you learn, you take lessons, you study, you can eventually get playing some Rachmaninoff, you know? So
yes, this is an accountability check for anyone who's been like, yeah, I wanted to deep dive into my thing. And also sometimes there's the season for it, right? Like this, even spiritualism sounds like it's been with you, but then in the 2020 was when it was, I'm so interested. We'll have to do this another time, but I want to look at your chart and see when all these milestones were for you, because that would be interesting to see what times out with the planets. And even when I first got to Lilydale, Neptune, the planet we connect to spiritualism or maybe spirituality, the ethereal realms, the unknown, different planes of existence, the kind of like not necessarily here on Earth planet, just moved signs for the first time in 12 years when I first got to Lilydale too. It moved into Aries, your sun sign. So I thought that was, I was taking it in, tied in, and I was like, okay, I'm in a shift of spirit right now. And now we're here getting to recap it, which I'm really
that would be really fun to do because I haven't taken the deep dive into astrology.
We'll do that. I will gladly gift that to you. So we'll have to sit down and have a exchange if you're down. But again, for another time, for the paywall. I'm just kidding. Seances. What are they? What happens in there? What is this thing that, you know, that was my first seance. Of course I know about it from movies and, you know, what you think like, oh, I guess it's often associated maybe with a Ouija board. No Ouija board was present for us. So again, was the Ouija board that bad? Anyhow, we can get into it. But yeah, what is a seance?
What is a seance? I believe the French translation is to sit.
Oh.
Quite literally, I think the word seance means a session or
to sit. Yeah, seance.
In the spiritualist tradition, it's a time to come together in communion with your loved ones from the other side. They might not be just family members. They might be friends. They might be teachers. They might be your spirit guides as well.
Yeah.
So there's no kind of limitation to who can come through. And there's different types of seances.
What did we do?
So, I mean, my group is kind of developmental. So it's not really focused on one medium. We all kind of rotate in and out of the cabinet. And we're kind of finding our way and developing over time.
Yeah.
We're all able to allow spirit to come through and speak in trance at this point. And beyond that, some physical things have kind of happened, not on a consistent basis, nothing that I would open up to for public demonstration, I guess.
Right.
But interesting enough, and it motivates us to keep going.
Yeah. Yeah. And physical mediumship being like something physically happens, something maybe moves, or you see, well, I mean, maybe
I should clarify that.
Yeah, go for it.
There's two main classifications of mediumship, right? So there's mental mediumship, which is like what you'll see in the documentary about Lilydale if you choose to watch that.
Yeah.
Standing up at the stump in front of a crowd, picking someone out from the crowd, bringing through some pieces of evidence about that spirit communicator, and then delivering some sort of message that kind of brings it all home.
That's like the big show that happens in the summertime frequently. And I say show only because you gather in the benches with a bunch of people, and it is like what you kind of see. I think what most people maybe saw on John Edwards, right? Where it's like, oh, someone's up front. They're like, you with the glasses. Someone's here. They have a pie recipe for you, or whatever. Some of the stuff that I saw while I was in Lilydale, I was like, oh, wow, this is truly like what I've seen on television only before.
Perfect. Yeah. That's what we would call a public demonstration of mental mediumship. And that's the medium through their own waking consciousness interpreting signs, signals, impressions from the spirit world and communicating that to a recipient, which that evidence in itself is very subjective because it's only really landing with that recipient or maybe multiple recipients if they are able to also understand that communication and evidence coming through from the spirit communicator. Physical mediumship, the evidence kind of shifts into more objective.
Yeah.
Meaning everyone in the room can see the lights flickering or they can smell aromas in the room or something along those lines. Something's levitating. I don't know.
Yeah. If we're lucky.
If we're lucky, yeah. It's usually like a really minor thing that happens, at least in my group now.
That's what was cool, about the séance, and I got to go to two, so the séances, is everything was small, which makes sense to me, right? Like, it'd be weird if all this stuff started flying across the room, and I'm like, wow, this group of people has something really crazy going on in here, and like, wouldn't they be like streaming this on Twitch if so? Like, like I was like, this actually makes sense that there's these little actions that aren't that little, because when you think about if a spirit is using all of it, and I always, from what I've seen, and I used to love, not that I fell out of love, I just stopped watching because I think I just don't have cable at my parents back in the day, was like Ghost Adventures, right? Where it's like, oh, it like they'd always talk about how much energy it takes, for these, they call them ghosts, for these spirits to use this microphone to say something or to do this. And it's like, that makes sense. You don't have a body. And like, I imagining traveling realms is kind of how I visualize it, would maybe be not easy, like, or something that feels like it would take a lot of battery charge for a entity.
It does take a very concentrated amount of energy, and not just from one person. Physical mediumship is something you're going to want to do with multiple people because you're going to want to have witnesses.
Yes. That was the other fun part. It was being like, did you see that? And people being like, yep. And I'm like, damn, crazy.
Well, it's a team effort, right? Because the medium sitting in the hot seat, the chair, the cabinet.
The sitter. I remember that term.
The sitters, the observers in the rest of the room are also lending their energy and sending it to the medium who's facilitating spirit to do their work.
Yeah. So to give a visualization of like what I experienced with Thom in our group, we had Tiffany, who was also on this episode, who was my art residency host. But yeah, it was our group of 4. It was also, I should note, a heat wave, and we were basically like in a sweat lodge. So that was a very interesting first experience as well.
That's true. I haven't put the air conditioning in the seance room at that point yet. So.
Yeah, because I arrived in early June. So, we were just on that change from spring to summer. And yeah, it was hot as, I think it was like an 88-degree day. The room was hot, but it added to the experience. I was like, am I sweat lodging or is this spirit? We'll find out. Having the group. I mean, the first moment that, and I'll play the clips too. The first moment I had a little panic attack. Do you remember that?
I remember you being startled.
Yeah.
Could I maybe get some water?
Yeah.
Thank you. I think I'm having nervous energy because I thought I saw eyes on Tiffany's eyes.
Yeah. Some overshadowing.
Yeah.
That's very common.
So I think it gave me a little.
Oh no, it's okay.
But I'm not. I'm scared, but it just gave me like being on drugs.
It can be a little intense sometimes.
I think you saw something maybe.
The setup is we're in a dark room. There's a red light on the chair. Someone sits in the chair. We sit at them like an audience facing them. And what I was told going in was like, keep your eyes open, like say something if you see something. And also like, don't, if Thom's sitting in the chair, don't go like, hey, Thom, like they're not channeling, but they're down. What would you say?
We're in an altered state
when we're in the altered state
environment, and to hear our own name while we're trying to kind of lower our vibration into an altered state of trance, literally.
Right.
Hearing our own name could pull us right back out of it.
Right. Don't go like, hey, Thom, and snapping fingers and waving hands. And I was like, got it. And it was pretty simple instructions. It was like kind of sit, say something if you see something. Because I remember sitting in being like, I think I said out loud, I was like, I'm just gonna watch. I'm not gonna say anything. And you were like, don't. Actually, please say stuff. Please say stuff. And I was like, if you see stuff, don't say stuff just to say stuff. But if you're called, and Tiffany was sitting and just channeling. I'm sorry, I keep saying channeling. It's hard to not say it.
It's fine. I mean, a lot of people use that term even in the spiritualist tradition.
Yeah.
I just think that comes from a different
modality
or different education or approach to it.
Okay. If it slips, I will try to not. But Tiffany was sitting in the seance hot seat, if you will, and listening back to, because also something I didn't know was that like being able to curate what song you wanted to listen to before we went into the
Yeah.
sessions, like, is that common? Is that yeah, I was just surprised. I was pleasantly surprised by like, oh, we're like listening to like, I don't know, songs from I know from pop culture. And I'm a huge karaoke fan. I love to sing, and I do think singing and songs and music is powerful, magical
Absolutely.
stuff. But yeah, before I get into like maybe my first observation that I'd love to talk about. Yeah, what was up with the songs? Like that was pretty fun. I loved you choosing the Arrival theme song as well.
Oh yeah. A
And
lot
I'm
of
probably jogging memory lane so hard too. So feel, don't mind me. I just re-listened and it's so fresh. So
Cool.
I got all the updates.
That's awesome. I mean, everyone has their own selection of songs that just make them feel good, bring them back down, put them into an altered state, hype them up, whatever.
Mhm.
If you're an athlete, you're getting ready for a big game. I'm sure you got like a hype list or something, you know?
Right. You're not going to put on Elliott Smith before like
No,
the World
I
Series.
hope
I mean, maybe, but if that's your hype, but probably not.
Yeah. So same thing with mediums. That music I have is was built over time. It's just a collection of things that help get me into an altered state, but also set the vibe in the room.
Mm-hmm.
It's nothing that's overly jarring or whatever. Like people can focus on what's happening, but there's also some fluidity to it.
Yeah.
But at the same time, there's some energetic stuff too. Like I know Tiffany has some bangers. I guess we could use the terminology.
Some séance songs that go hard.
Yeah, and
Well, she did Sound of Silence, Simon and Garfunkel,
yeah,
which was like, to me, was like too iconic of a needle drop. Like I was just like, this is like so tight. And also at that where we were staying at the time, Pablo, my husband, was like on the other side of the wall. So I remember when I came back after the seance, he's like, you guys like just listening to music? You guys were like cranking Simon and Garfunkel.
Yeah.
I had my song was Lucky Star by Madonna, which I think also listening back to the seance recording, I was like, actually, this is a kind of tight. Like it's the 80s synths and things. And maybe it's also coming
What
as an
inspired me? I
astrologer
would have never
too.
thought of that song, and you had selected it. I'm like, oh, this is so perfect right now.
Also being a stargazer, kind of like tied in naturally too, because my purpose is a little different here. And I remember our other guests had Stand By Me, and I remember we were talking about that because having her husband come through, but it wasn't like, I remember asking her like, oh, is that your song? And she's like, no. And that's why it was so surprising. And it was like, oh, well, Stand By Me is actually really like great, at least, as a song title, like as a choice to have spirit come through, because it's like, stand by me, be with me, like come show yourself, if you will. So yeah, the thing that gave me a panic attack, which listening back, I'm like, oh, it's funny how I can be stressed the fuck out. But I listened back, I was like, it must have sounded crazy. And I was like, I'm so calm sounding. I'm like, didn't probably come off as stressed as I was. And I didn't call it to anyone or the moment. Probably was overheated, truthfully, because it was really hot. Tiffany was sitting, and I just remember her saying, like, during this, keep your eyes open, look at the sitter. And I'm like looking, and all of a sudden, she stared at me like a drunk guy on the train that you like as a woman, like where I was just like, no, like where I was just like, that is a guy, like they're locking eyes so hard. And then my heart sank because I'm like, her eyes are closed, and there's eyes shadowed over her eyeball, like there was just floating eyeballs, and I was like, oh. As someone who's never seen anything like that before, yeah, that gave me just like, I think I even said it on the recording, I was like, sorry, I feel like I'm on drugs. Like this is the only way I could describe it. Like when when you're like, think you're gonna have a good time on drugs, and you're like, ooh, I'm having that like cranked up time, actually. See, being able to say it out loud, and then you hand me like a water, and you're like, all good. And I was like, okay, great. I'm like, I didn't feel actually scared. I just felt very heightened. But yeah, I would just maybe love to hear your thoughts on this, or like what do you call it? Like overshadowing is what I saw.
You just said it yourself a minute ago.
Yeah.
Overshadowing is a word that's used. Transfiguration is a word that's used, it's definitely a phase of physical mediumship which utilizes ectoplasm.
Right.
Perhaps some of your viewers are familiar with that term.
I mean, probably from Ghostbusters, right? Like,
right. It's an actual thing. It's an actual thing, and this is where the movement is. It's met with a lot of skepticism
about like ectoplasm in particular, or just like that's what brings up some skepticism.
Yeah, I mean, physical phenomena in general, people are always going to question it, and they're going to want to know and understand more, which either leads people down that path or turns people away from it altogether. Which is why in the seance room we keep a red light. It's kind of what you would see in a movie or a TV show. It's a darkened room. We have the windows blackened out. There's a little 8-watt red light bulb in front of the medium's chair. And the reason we use red in dimly lit conditions is because of ectoplasm. It is photosensitive. It's what we call etherealized protoplasm.
Okay.
So protoplasm is the water content within our own bodies.
Mm-hmm.
When we're connected and linking with spirit and on a entranced level, spirit can etherealize that protoplasm, literally extract it from the medium's body.
Yeah.
And they can utilize it for a multitude of different things. For transfiguration or for overshadowing, like what you were explaining,
Yeah.
they're manipulating the medium's face, which is why you saw eyeballs outside of her own closed eyes. They
Like if a projector was on her face, basically, is what it looked like.
Perfect.
And then also after I like settled in my like pang of whoa, I also noticed she was getting cheekbones. There was shadow coming in, making cheekbones that weren't there before as well. And I was like, boom, new face downloading right now.
Facial changes. Sometimes it happens very slowly and gradually. Sometimes it's very instantaneous. You'll get faces shifting in and out very quickly.
Mhm.
Other times it's very amorphous and it takes a minute for things to settle.
Yeah.
But that's what you saw with the eyes.
You have this ritual of this group that does this very frequently. It was like cool to compare as me as an outsider, like the big one that came in for me was during when you were sitting during our first seance. And I have a horrible sense of smell. Like if you know me in real life, I'll walk into a room and people are like, oh, it smells like farts. I'm like, yeah, it does. Even though I cannot smell anything. Like I don't know. I always had a bad sense of smell. Though I have smelled a gas leak before. So it comes in handy when it's like I can only smell important, dangerous smells only.
Well, that's good. At least
that's good. Yeah. Of all the smells to have during your session, and I say this in the recording too, I was just like, okay, who's peeling an orange? I didn't even ask like, oh, there's an orange smell. I was like, who's peeling an orange? Like where is the smell? And
can I ask something? Is someone eating an orange?
No, it's that sometimes that smell happens.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I smell it too.
It was like someone opened an orange.
Tiffany was like, oh, that's happened before. And that was the one, not that I thought you guys were trying to like be like tricksters or anything, but I remember because at the end, you can hear it at the end of the recording too. I'm like, no one's feeling it. Like I genuinely just had to ask a second follow-up of like, no one opened one because it was so not even the like, it wasn't orange incense. It wasn't orange spray. It's like so just if anyone's ever peeled an orange, you know what that smells like. It's so distinct, and it smelled an inch away from my face.
Wait, you didn't peel an orange back there?
I did not peel an orange.
Whoa.
Cool.
Yeah.
I never experienced that.
You're like, I don't get the orange smell. It was during your session, so you bring out the oranges for
That's cool. That's probably the ectoplasm. It's definitely it can have an aroma sometimes, unless there's something else going on that I'm not aware of.
You were even like, you can look around, like you're like, I appreciate, like I wasn't even asking this pointed way. I was just blown away because I just don't smell things ever, and so it really, not that like, I mean, the eyes were really and the face shifting that was happening was definitely like whoa, but then like because that's not my sense, I think it just like really blew my mind in a way that was like, wow, it broke through this barrier that I have just in regular life of like, I can smell someone's peeling an orange, but it was just so strong that it was really wild.
I'm glad Spirit was able to do that for you. That's
Spirit was doing tons of stuff. Speaking of, maybe if it's not a trouble, can you show us the trumpet that is in the corner?
Yeah.
I might bring it over. So this trumpet that you've had in the corner. This was also present during our seance. Yes. And I'll explain what I saw in a bit, but can you just maybe tell the viewers what we're even looking at? Whoa, it condenses. Yeah.
So this is how we would travel from place to place.
Whoa.
So spirit trumpet, it's a phase of physical mediumship. Spirit can do a lot of different things with trumpets. This one's very important to me because it had belonged to the spirit that's working through me now. When she was in the physical, and her name's Virginia Falls. She was an ordained spiritualist minister and a medium, a resident of Camp Chesterfield, and ordained through the NSAC. It's a constant progression. Just because you lose your physical body doesn't mean you're not still interested in mediumship.
Right.
My understanding is that when mediums themselves cross to the spirit world, they become mediums for the spirit world to communicate with those still on Earth.
Whoa. So I could be like a dead astrologer. Like,
well, yeah, I mean, when you transition into the spirit world, you could become a spirit guide for an earthbound astrologer and help them in their work. I mean, that's
I will. I think like even like so most like that would be. Can you imagine I'm like hanging out on Saturn and then I'm like, hang on, I'm gonna shoot down to Earth and like give some like download of knowledge about the start. Anyways, all side
spirit guides are great. We could talk about spirit guides.
We will become spirit guides. I never even thought about that. That's like such a duh, but like, yeah, cool.
I would if I could.
Yeah, I guess if you consent, I'm assuming there's some levels of consent that are happening too for these spirits. They probably only come if they want to come
Oh my
down.
God, it took me forever to understand and realize what was happening with me in Virginia. Uh, I know, like, because sometimes you'll go and get a message from a medium and she'll say something to you that just does not resonate. Like, I do not understand what you're talking.
Mm,
I don't know if you're talking about the state of Virginia or Virginia
mm,
person or whatever.
right.
Um, and it was, one medium gave me that little bit of information, then another medium said Virginia in a different state, like thousands of miles away.
Yeah.
And what, and then Virginia made herself known to me over a period of time, and she gave me some evidence that I could go and validate and understand, oh my God, that is her. So that's where evidential mediumship comes in. Like, that's what's really proving the continuity of life. Any medium can come to you and say, "Oh, I have a woman here that loves you so much, and she liked to bake cookies at Christmas. Who is this to you?"
Right. And it's like,
You're likely to say it was my mom or my grandma.
yeah,
That's not really proving anything. But if you
right.
can say, "Oh yeah, there's this lady. She comes in. She's 2 generations older than you. She's saying she's on your father's side. She died from Epstein-Barr.
Hmm.
She loved to make glazed carrots at Thanksgiving, and she lived on a street. It sounds like Oakland or something like that." And you start to
Right.
get little minute snippets of that person's life that can become very evidential, and
Yeah.
that's what really takes the belief away, and it turns it into just a knowing. I don't
Hmm.
believe in life after death. I know of life after death. I'm getting on a soapbox. We're here to talk about spirit trumpets,
So this trumpet though blew my mind because I believe there's two trumpets sitting in the room while we were seancing.
right?
And if you're watching the video, this will be on audio and video. If you're watching the video, there's rings on this trumpet
Right.
and they have glow tape, right? Like those glow in the dark.
Yeah, it's luminescent tape. It's actually tape that's used to mark stages so people know where to put props and stuff. It glows in the
Right.
dark.
Yeah. So in the room when we were sitting there and it's dark room, red lights on the chair, there's two trumpets and I could just see what looks like, traffic cones with four rings glowing the whole time. It wasn't until because we had four people. Thom was the last sitter. And during the arrival theme song, which was I don't know if it's a theme song, during the arrival soundtrack, the top two rings of this trumpet just started blinking like a radio tower.
This trumpet
Mm-hmm.
is so flickery.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, is it?
Oh yeah.
So if you were like really skeptical winding this back, so someone would have to be like waving their hand, blocking the light over and over,
Sure.
right?
Yeah.
Or or something, or a spirit, whatever. So the bottom two stayed illuminated, but the top two just and they would go like, second ring blink, first ring blink. Like they weren't ever at the same time. It was literally like what felt like a frequency or something where it was like,
Yeah.
oh, like they're making this blinky. And that one I was like, I mean, I say this about every experience I had during the seance. And that one I was like, whoa. It's like, but that was like, I just didn't even know that was going to be a thing in play as well. I think I asked you in the beginning, what are those? And you're like, spirit trumpets. So I was like, oh, tight. And then I was like, oh, I'm seeing them be utilized now.
Yeah. I've witnessed the same thing too. Like when you see the luminescent bands going in and out, I'll just say
Yeah.
it's a gradual fade in, fade out though for you, right? Or was it not?
No, it wasn't like, like a firefly that's like slow blinks. This was
Mhm.
not that. It was like blink, 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 blink,
Yeah.
really rapid fire.
Okay. I have yet to see that myself personally. I have seen the luminescent bands go in and out, but gradually. And I believe that's just from ectoplasm wanting to kind of encapsulate the trumpet. Because
Right.
a spirit trumpet will levitate and move around the room freely.
Whoa.
I'm not freely.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Via ectoplasm.
Right.
Use it to levitate it, to move it around.
We're rounding home, I think. And thank you for all of your energy and information. And it feels so great to catch up too and just like reflect on I'm in such good company. And I feel like I couldn't have not had a better seance experience with you and the crew. And I will say I did sit as well. I've sat twice. And because, for the folks who were sitting that I was witnessing were people who live in Lilydale who have experience, who some were vocalizing, like speaking, that wasn't them speaking, this is another person. I remember sitting up, and this is just for folks, and we'll get into maybe some little last minute advice at the end for anyone that's like listening to this and going, I want to do this. But I remember thinking, okay, what am I going to do? Speak? Like, I've never done this before. Like, I don't want someone to force anything, right? Like, so I'm like, okay, well, just like play Lucky Star by Madonna. And I remember I asked you, it's on the recording. I was like, any advice? You're like, just see what happens. And I was like, all right, let's do it. Like, I'll just see what happens, which is great advice. And I was just sitting there, and then I was like, I realized I wasn't breathing because it was just a quiet, dark, hot room. And was like, okay, I'm not breathing. like go to yoga breath, like start breathing. As soon as I started breathing, Tiffany says like, oh, I see blue in her stomach area. Like there's like blue light floating around her like core. And then you say, oh, that's funny. I was just about to say like her necklace is glimmering, like there's some shininess sort of happening. And then, I came like maybe a minute or two later, came out and was like, oh, as soon as I started breathing, you guys mentioned I was like glowing. And I thought that was an interesting way, maybe for folks who are listening who are maybe still timid and might not want to like, not saying not go there, but like, I don't know, as someone who was new and was like, am I going to speak? What's going to happen? Is a spirit going to come through me? Like, I didn't know, but it was cool to still have some observations too from me and just like, wow, look at like breathing would be blue light around my core and my necklace starting to shimmer. And interest does that happen a lot or like?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, absolutely. Something similar to that I've seen in different seance rooms with different mediums. Sometimes when sometimes you kind of happen to zone out sometimes. When you're sitting in the room trying to observe, it takes a lot to be concentrated for like 2 hours at a time.
Yeah, it's very meditative. I mean, it is like meditating in many ways. We did meditate before we even started, and then it was like, this does feel like a form of meditation.
Right. So, you look around the room, you might look up at the ceiling or something, and I've seen what I would call like little pinpoints of light, similar to what you were explaining about a firefly that kind of the light brightens and then dims in a kind of gradual way.
Right.
I've seen that with fireflies, quote unquote fireflies, all over the room. I've seen lights flicker on and off, like physically seeing the lights, the light fixture do that. But opposite of that, or independent of that, I've seen like these little sources of light in the room before, very reminiscent of what you're explaining. And for it to happen down here, that's your solar plexus.
Right.
And that's the first place that ectoplasm is extruded from the body. So that makes a significant amount of sense to me.
For anyone listening, maybe this is our wrap up. What if someone's listening and is like, I want to do this, I want to do this. Do you need a certain amount of people? What's the idea? Like, is there books that you like? Like, I'm curious, like if someone's sitting here and wants to do a seance tomorrow.
Yeah, I know it's very interesting. The physical mediumship specifically is extremely interesting. When I first learned about it, I want to go right to that. That's what I want to do. Experience that. I want to know how to do that. So yeah, I mean, you can pick up books and you can read all day. You can go to seances. It's hard to find one.
I was gonna say, I'm shocked
out there. So there's maybe a dozen or so physical mediums that are doing public work, and they seem to book up pretty well in advance. It's also fairly expensive to go do that.
To these types of people who are doing like these more public demonstration things.
Yeah, and I don't know if you've ever had the chance to sit with one, but it's a whole lot heavier than what you experienced in my seance room.
I think that's why I was so like I loved so much of my experience in Lilydale. The seances were like the absolute highlights, and maybe this is just because of me. Knock on wood, I don't have many dead people in my life, like, and that's a blessing, or whatever. Like everyone has different views, but when you go to those demos, like most people there are looking to speak to someone specific usually, and they're in grief a lot of the time. So it is like, damn, okay. I'm not currently in grief over a dead person. So I felt like with the seances, I was like, ooh, Abraham Lincoln, ooh, this ancient figure from Lilydale. Like, I was very open to different characters. I wasn't hoping for a family member even necessarily, it's
who comes through is one thing, and then what they choose to communicate is another thing.
Yeah.
It's an experiment every time. There's no guarantees that what you desire is going to happen. It's more about what spirit wants to get done.
Yeah. And sometimes I'd say, and this happens in astrology, we joke that astrology is therapy fast, not a licensed therapist. This is for entertainment purposes only. It can go into the heavy quickly. And some people are ready to go there, and some people are like, oh, fuck, I didn't know we were going to do this.
Yeah, it can definitely hit you like a ton of bricks, though. But it's healing.
Yeah. So I guess if someone's sitting here ready and willing to go, I mean, maybe seances maybe just find them. Is that maybe the takeaway?
Yeah, I mean, look around. Physical mediums travel all over the world to do events. They're typically hosted by a spiritualist church. So look for
That's a good place maybe to start. Yeah, like the spiritualist groups.
Yeah, they're all over the country, all over the world. So look for your local spiritualist church, because they're also going to have message services, church services, healing services. They'll have development classes. They'll have people that are very well experienced that can help you on your journey. There's various educational centers around the country. I'm a graduate of the Morris Pratt Institute in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. I'm also currently a student at the Inner Spiritual Center in Fairfield, New Jersey. They have classes on mental mediumship, trance, physical. and a lot of other types of things too.
Mhm.
And then the International Spiritualist Federation is a great resource. They do events worldwide, and they're mostly geared towards demonstration or education. They're having an event in Glasgow, Scotland next
Ooh.
year, which I'm so excited to go to.
Oh, okay,
And
fun. I mean, Glasgow too, Scotland is like the energy there is going to be fantastic.
I'm sure,
I mean,
yeah.
everything's a castle there, I think, from what I've heard.
And here in America, I would recommend the National Spiritualist Association of Churches. They're a great resource. They have a bookstore,
Mhm.
and they have all types of books on mental mediumship, clairvoyance, healing, trance
Yeah.
mediumship, physical mediumship. They sell trumpets, slates, anything that you might want to get your hands on as far as spiritualism goes.
Thank you for all your generous information, time, reflection. Last word, last message from Spirit. Anything you want hope people take away from this today? And then if you want people to know who you are and what you do, feel free to plug away on
Oh,
where people can
cool.
find you.
Yeah, I mean, just don't be afraid. Get out there and experiment. Have the courage to question. Have the courage to think outside the box. I almost feel like we should do a part two. Like I said, it's
We
exponential. There's
can.
so many things to talk about. There's so much to learn. Um,
Maybe if folks have questions, I can like have some write-ins and we can do like a part two, like a Q&A sort of thing. Because I'm sure there will be. I would be shocked if there was no questions, even though I think we explained and I would say you explained so many things so eloquently. I mean, how does it not open up a rabbit hole of
I know.
further questions?
It's hard to fit spiritualism into 1 hour.
Yeah. Well, and that's why I mean, even with astrology, it's endless. Even though like yeah, like your sun sign is like I could talk about the sun alone for years and years, and I still wouldn't be done. And I still see something new. And I've looked at my own natal chart thousands of times. I'll be like, oh, I didn't notice I had all these twos and at 2 degrees of this. And like, that's the fun part for the seekers out here is that endless material to play with.
If anyone has any questions or is coming to Lilydale and they need a little tour guide or something, my email address is dalyspiritualist@gmail.com. And daly is spelled Daly. And my Instagram handle is the same, Daily Spiritualist.
Okay, I don't even think I knew you were on Instagram, so now I'm about to
I just started that Instagram account too, so
okay.
I need followers.
Okay, we're gonna get you. Well, star quality people come through. I'll put all everything in the show notes too. Email, Instagram. Go to Lilydale.
Thank you so much for inviting me on. I'm happy to talk about this stuff anytime.
I know. Well, I don't think this is our last conversation.
Awesome.
Star quality.
I have a very special guest, woman who I'm gonna go ahead and say it changed my life. I'm gonna throw that out there. I mean, there's almost too many credits to give to you. How do I introduce Tiffany? Medium, author, futurist. Any other keywords you'd like to throw in while I'm here?
Love those.
Those are good ones.
Like to research.
Researcher. Yeah,
And
just cool.
I have to say, as soon as you started talking, Sylvester jumped in the frame, heard your voice, and was like, I have to be here. I'm sorry to interrupt, but
no, I thought I saw him.
Yeah.
Okay. If you've been listening here, you probably know that over the summer, I was the artist in residence for the Normalized Talking to the Dead residency for cultivation of communication with the unseen. I did have to read that off of my doc because I did not have that committed to memory, but I love every word in that sentence. And I got to be the den mother of Koyo, the beautiful amber red husky, and Sylvester, the tuxedo little just love pot. So, and here is their mother, Tiffany Hopkins. So I kind of explained a bit when I was chatting with Thom about how I came across Lilydale, which was a combination of like Shannon Taggart and just being online and HBO documentary. And then I think I saw Cy Swoon was a resident at Sacred Grounds and just was like, okay, like and also there seems to be some modern things happening here too with your book and with art residencies and just a lot happening in the LD, okay, Lilydale, New York. So welcome and thanks for connecting with me. And I'm excited to chat spirit and the dead and all the things that have now entered my life since being a member of your amazing art residency. So welcome to the space.
Thank you so much, Stevie. It's so great to be here. And I'm so happy to just like chat through all of it because I know you had some important experiences in Lilydale, which was the hope, the dream realized. And I can't wait to chat about it and share it with everybody.
Yeah, I'm really glad. I came a few days early to my art residency so we could meet in person too. So I'm like, that was also kind of what brought in this chance of being there for the séance, which you had mentioned. And I was really honored to be invited into the inner circle because I was like, oh, like, I don't know what my perception was before that. I was like, oh no, I'm this outsider. Like, I'm going to like muck up the vibe. And it couldn't have been a more welcoming, cool. Do you remember our séance? Because I mean, I know you guys do them weekly. So probably less easy to remember, I would think.
Yeah, not really. I mean, I remember I kind of just have like an overall like good vibe about it. But that's about it.
It was a good vibe. It was well, it was a heat wave, if you recall. We were in like a sweat box.
Oh, that's right. Did
So
we
that
like
was
try to have the AC on to turn it off because it was
it,
too loud?
it wasn't even installed yet
Okay.
because it was like spring
Okay.
becoming summer. So it just happened to be like 90 that day. It was like early June. So it
Oh, that's
was
right. So we're
yeah. So
like kind
that
of altered consciousness from heat.
yeah, that definitely, I mean, it just feels like, when you hear the story of someone being born, even where you're like, I remember that day. It was a hot that was 90 degrees in the seance closet, having a time. But it was the four of us. And I was telling Tom, my first thing that happened or thing that gave me a little panic attack, actually, but I came through the other side. I was telling Tom it felt like coming up on drugs was you had overshadowing or transfiguration on your eyeballs or your closed eyes where it looked like eyes. And you like, it felt like I was kind of described it in the audio. I described it as like, it's like when a drunk guy is like looking at you and you're like, what? And you're like, what? And it was, uh, yeah, like it was a moment where that was the first time I saw something I had never seen or experienced before. And I would say probably my first time, quote, seeing or experiencing the dead. So you're part of that for me and that group. So
Cool.
That was pretty cool.
Welcome, Doug.
Thanks. They were saying all this stuff to me, but they wouldn't talk.
Well, that's
And
okay.
I was like, don't talk to me.
I kept seeing the same guy
Yeah, there was he
over and over.
kind of burly sort of or
Yes,
something?
it was like a cowboy,
Yeah.
like train worker.
Right,
Like,
he was lumbery.
yes.
That was the vibe that
And
he was
lumbery.
giving me.
And he looked a little sad.
He did have an intense. His eyes were
Well,
intense.
But every once in a while, it'd be a sharp stare at me. Like, when you're in a grocery store and someone's just like,
Mm-hmm.
and I was like, maybe I should have asked you, like, what's up? It felt, but it felt like a man who was really repressed, like, who, it's like, nothing. Like, it's like my brother.
Yeah,
like,
there was
nothing's
no
wrong.
words.
Yeah,
He was like,
I'm fine. Like, and it's like, oh, okay.
mm-hmm.
Like a male, no offense, like, repression of, like,
That makes sense because he just did. There was the other two were saying things, but he was like, they were just like, nope, we're not, nope, not talking. I was like, please. I'm more used to talking, so I'm just it's interesting.
yeah, I don't know where I'm going with this. Thoughts? I know you're probably like when you are experiencing that. Do you experience it? Do you feel it? Or I'm just curious in terms of seances. Like, are you there?
Yeah. Well, those I should be specific. It's those were physical mediumship seances. So
Yes.
like and that's sort of implied by the word science seance, but I always like to make sure that's clear for people because different groups have different, words for
Yeah.
stuff. And so it is really different than like if you're in a room in a circle with a bunch of people doing what they call mental mediumship where people are like talking about communication with spirit. This is
Right.
like we're in a room trying to bring spirit like through our bodies, so it's a lot more intense, and that's why like you asked exactly the right question. What am I even there? And like the goal is not to be there. I'm pretty new. I've only done this like regularly for this year.
Yeah.
So it's like an effort to not be there and to like let go. Like that is the work for that kind of thing of like, can you not be there?
Yeah.
It's really hard. Like dissociation's so easy, but trying to do it with like other contexts is hard.
Oh my God.
I feel like with that, like that is also why in those seances we do a lot of talking about what's happening. So like I remember, or you might remember that you kind of say what you're seeing. If you see something, say something is kind of what happens in those. And that is to help us who are doing it confirm. Because yeah, I'm like, if I remember correctly, the guy that was coming through felt like a kind of like loose physically. Like he just felt like you said, like a drunk guy staring at you. And like if I
Right.
remember correctly, he was like so I felt something that you then could see, and like that's kind of what you're hoping for. And so I'm feeling it, and it's like that's actually why I really love physical mediumship seances is like you get a chance to just be in another person. Really, the other person is in you, but like the metaphor is a little easier to understand if you're like, oh, this is what it would feel like to be a totally different person, and you like really feel it.
Well, I remember, after I had my like mini panic attack, which I'm glad I like said back to see if you see something, say something. I was like, can I have water? Also, I'm a little scared. I'm not actually scared, but it's my first time. So, sorry. And like, and everyone's like, it's cool. And then I think Tom, cause you were like finally settled into or the man who was in you was settled into you. And Thom was like, do you have something to say to the drunk? We'll call him the drunk guy. And you just went, no, I don't got nothing to say, or something. It was like that. It was something like, and it was like, yeah, that guy has like, it's just like that, like that thing where it's like, this is a different person. And then you were getting cheekbones. It was like real wild. And I don't mean to just talk about this in this very like, I don't know, total tourist foreigner, like that's crazy, because I know this is part of y'all's weekly regular experience. But for my listeners, I would guess most people have not experienced anything like this. And I'm the sort of fresh eyes that is seeing this for them. But there's, everyone here is a seeker. If whoever's listening is definitely in the seeker category. And I think, yeah, I mean, this just moment in trip in space and being in Lilydale really just was the first time I really haven't, something I just had never experienced before. And doing it with other people was also very potent. Same with if you do any kind of magic or rituals. It's like when you do anything with a group of people, it just makes everything feel extra strong and intensified.
Totally. That's why I love seances, circles, all that stuff. Like, it's one thing to seek, and a lot of seeking we do on our own, but it's so much, to me, cooler to do it in a group. Like, I shouldn't say that, because there's so much of it that needs to be done alone, but it is so wonderful to have witnesses and to share experience. And I just want to set the scene for people that we are in a pitch black room, like completely blackened, darkened. There's no light at all, except for maybe we had the red light on.
We had the red light,
red light on. And we're really close together. Yeah, it's like it's small. It was really hot, and so like, it really starts to alter your experience, and it is intimate. It is intimate.
I mean, the setting couldn't have been more. I know, like, most of the time people are seeing seances and this sort of thing in movies. I will say Thom's cabinet of seance is out of almost a movie set. Like, his decor is top notch and beautiful, and I was just like, oh, this is where I want to be doing a seance. But I want to just backtrack a little, and you referenced it before. How did you get here? Like, I would love to hear just your Lilydale tale, which also connects to your book Beyond, A Living Person's Guide to the Dead.
Basically, like, to shorten the story by saying I inherited a house in Lilydale. There's, it's a little more complicated than that, but it's basically my family's had a cottage there for 120 years, and it was empty for 20 years, and the family was kind of like, we're done with it. It's just too much of a hassle. It needs too much work. And I was like, I'll do it. And I moved there from Brooklyn. Like, I work in tech. I'm like a nerd. I have a degree in science. Like, I'm also a seeker, right? And so I was like, oh, it'll be interesting. And but I didn't really think I'd get as into it as I did not expect to write a whole book about it. Mediumship and talking to the dead. But I moved there, and within like 3 days, I was in circles and seances and classes. And
wow,
as a seeker, it's like you can't like be in a place with this wild thing happening and not being like, yeah, I'm gonna try that.
Right.
And there's nothing else to do there. You were there in summer and there's nothing to do, but in winter, really nothing to do. So I was doing it all the time, and I found it very helpful for connecting with my own body, which is something I've always struggled with. And I found it very helpful for developing relationships with my ancestors, which is something I've been working on for a decade or so. And I found it just fun and interesting and weird, and have been pretty captivated by it for now. I moved there in 2018, so
wow,
a while.
Definitely, there'll be links to everything too, so please check out Tiffany's book. And some things might be repeat from the book, but I mean, it's just it's a very interesting tale, and it's also just a helpful guide too for anyone who's listens to this Lilydale Diaries compilation and wants to start your journey, or maybe you've already started your journey and want to enhance that journey. Was there a first moment with spirit that you like remember from when you first got to Lilydale, or did it bring up maybe that you had connected with spirit before Lilydale and maybe you didn't realize it, or like, yeah, I'm curious.
I always get kind of jealous when people have those like big moments, because mine
is iconic, I will say.
And drawn out. It took forever, I feel like, and I've had a lot of like back and forth where I'm like, I don't know if I'm gonna keep doing this, and then something would happen, and I'd be like, oh, of course, how could I not? And because it's been hard. It's a hard thing to accept. Talking to the dead seems real out there. And then I started really looking into it and looking into the history of it, and the history not just of spiritualism in Lilydale, but like, people talk to the dead. They've always talked to the dead. Like, that's kind of, they're other people. They're huge parts of our lives. Like, now I'm kind of like, I don't know if it's that weird. But I definitely.
It's your normal.
It is. It's my normal.
Well, normalized talking to the dead. And maybe that's a good tie-in too of like, what is normalized talking to the dead and why start that as well.
Yeah. And that like came to me on a hike with the dog one day. And I was like, that's what Lilydale did for me. Is it normalized talking to the dead? I was the kind of person that never would have done this, really. I don't think, if it wasn't for being surrounded by a lot of people that were like, no, it's cool. Don't worry about it. It's totally normal. Like people there are like, do not bat an eye about talking about it. Everybody who lives there does it. Most people do it for their job, or many people do it for their jobs.
Right.
It's, I just am the kind of person that was like, probably wouldn't have ever gotten there without that kind of environment. And I was like, I want to give that to other people because I think it's really, really meaningful. And it's okay if it doesn't have to be like spiritualist style mediumships. You don't have to go to seances, just like having relationships with the people who came before us. Like, how could that not be like a good thing, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and also this idea, right, of like, even with this, like, normally talking to the dead or like spiritualism's main, and please correct me if I ever get any spiritualism or Lily Dale fact wrong, because there's a lot of history and a lot of information and a lot of like, even you and Thom did this as well, like highlighting like, well, this practice of medium or seance versus that, like you're never over explaining anything, by the way. And most people again are coming in probably super blank page, but even this idea of like, is there even the dead? Because it's like, it's just a different vessel. Like, yes, they're dead, but I think that was even the thought that kept coming up in Lilydale, and it's sort of in the tenets of the belief system too. I don't know. I can get really like heady woo with it, where it's like, we just happen to be the ones in like bodies, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's what it'll do to you, especially if you do have like a transformative experience like you did. And over time, I really did as well. And that, when I said I went back and forth and sometimes would be like, I'm not doing this anymore. Cause like, if you're a seeker and you're trying to figure things out, that means you're probably thinking about it a lot. And this is not really something that is easy to think about, because you come up against belief systems over and over and over that do not mesh with talking to the dead. And there's a lot of them. And then there's a lot of different answers to what's happening. And that's where is because I was always like, I got to figure out if this is real and what's going on. And then finally I just was like, nope, I'm not going to be the person that figures that out.
In terms of, I mean, well, I saw, and I hope you offer this again soon in the future. I saw that you had like the mediumship for creativity circle, like intersecting the art and mediumship. So is that like what you're saying in terms of like your book being more of this resource if folks maybe like, not that they aren't about talking to the dead, but like what you're saying, like it doesn't just have to be this one-way street of like, oh no, like my uncle died, gotta like, maybe people might, I would love to just hear your thoughts on like using mediumship for these creative things, or like opening up your process of, and how does mediumship do that? And like, what connection have you found?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm really into that topic. So actually the book started because I did a mediumship for creativity circle where I did this for like 3 or so years with Morbid Anatomy online during the pandemic, where I basically took the tools of mediumship and put them into a format for creatives to use in their process. Because when I was first learning, I started part of the program, I went through a 2-year program on mediumship, and part of it you have to do a research paper, and I decided to research channeling because I wanted to use it in I was really, I was in Lilydale. I was it was the middle of winter. I had a lot of free time suddenly moving from Brooklyn to there. And so I was getting back into all the arts things I loved as a kid. I was getting back into singing and playing the banjo and drawing and painting and writing. And I was like, this is so similar to mediumship, and not in the way where you're going and sitting in front of a client, or a client comes to talk to their uncle, like your example. It's like the bones of it are the same. You're like the process, the technical part where you're writing your body down. You're opening yourself up, hoping that something comes in that's not something you have to work for, right? Like inspiration is this thing that just like pops up, and you're like, please, I want that when you're writing or when you're, trying to do something creative. And it's the same thing with doing mediumship readings. You're like, you go in there and you're like, I really hope a spirit shows up so I have something to say. And they do. Like having that set, like the set of tools, they do, because you learn how to like create the space for them. And that's the set of tools that I went in hoping to teach other artists, because creativity and like inspiration it feels so like not under any control. And that is the beauty of it. But like, are there ways that we can help coax it into our lives? And
like seduce it out.
Seduce it, exactly. Like, I want to be here. And that's what the book started. I just wrote this like little book of mediumship for creativity, and then I was like, oh, but they need to know this, and they need to know this, and then it turned into a big book all about all different sorts of things.
And that was great with the art residency too. Like, I got so much done and wrote 360 symbols in a short time, because first of all, the vortex of Lilydale was really supportive, and also like having not much to do makes you work on stuff. Believe it or not, the rumors are true.
Rumors are true.
Was there something that you've ever like, and this, I'm curious your thoughts too on this, because me and Thom discussed the word channeled, and that's maybe like, I would say, I learned maybe it's like not exactly the term that's used in mediumship, or it can be like a controversial term, or I don't know if it's controversial, but
Yeah, no, it's complicated a little. I mean,
Uh-huh.
look, that's what I started studying, and I decided to call this process mediumship because I think channeling is like opening up and letting things through.
Mm-hmm.
It's one direction, and
Yeah.
mediumship is really about having a conversation,
Mm-hmm.
right? And the other part of mediumship that I like to talk about is that it also doesn't just happen invisibly. It is comes out through words, pictures, you're saying it, you're writing it. That's really important. And I think that's part of channeling, but the like bi-directional part isn't
Mm-hmm.
necessarily, but it's all sort of semantics. Like,
Yeah.
you can think of it however you want to think about it and call it whatever you want to call it. Yeah, I write fiction as well. And
Oh,
so
cool.
I have whole books that, started maybe in a channeling capacity, but then it turns into mediumship because I'm having conversations with the characters and I'm watching them interact and and then I write about it. And so it's a
Mm-hmm.
huge part of my process for that.
Whoa, wait. It almost begs the question of like what part is imagination and then what part is the mediumship or like being able to access a different realm, possibly.
Yeah.
Maybe it actually does exist. Again, I'm getting really stoner boner here on this
Oh,
like
I love it.
on
I'm
this
in.
wavelength. This is why you and me got connected, I
Yes, exactly. I'm like, all night. I mean, that's the question. And one of the foundation, there's a whole book or a whole chapter in the book about imagination because it is
Mm-hmm.
a massive part of mediumship. And you cannot, like, what do you use in your mind or inside in your internal experience? How do you experience things? It's all imagination. If you're like thinking of a
Right.
memory, what is that? I mean, we call it bringing up a memory, but it's also using your imagination. It's like we don't have great language for what's going on inside of us, but we've got the word imagination, and I think it's a huge part of mediumship. And then that other part where you're really hoping something comes in
Mm-hmm.
that is not you.
Yeah.
And it doesn't always, just like with art, sometimes you like have to really like bang it out and like come up with stuff, but you hope that something else comes in. And I also think that when something comes in, the like what your being is using to interpret that is also your imagination, right? Like what
Mm-hmm.
else is in there? What other capacities do we
Yeah.
have? It's just our internal experience.
This made me think, and this might be totally unrelated. So let's go on this ride. But I like 2 days ago, I was doing yoga and then we're at the Shavasana like meditation e part. And we did a meditation before we started the seance. And the seance was very meditative and even after the meditation. And so I was seeing my typical third eye, which is normally like a paper origami star, but it was kind of like doing a new thing, which I'd never seen, which is cool. But then I saw the face of this album cover that I hadn't thought of in like a decade. And I could not think of the name. And I'm sitting there in Shavasana, like, what the fuck is this album? I used to listen on YouTube, like, and like I was starting to feel that like grown. But I remember Tom Waits quote that was like about if he's driving and thinking of a song, like he usually keeps paper, but if it's gone, he's like, it will come back. Just to not like torture yourself, right? Because like, I mean, how many million thoughts or mediumships or connections or whatever, channeling, whatever you want to call it, are happening. And so I just like was like, okay, I have to stop thinking about this long lost album cover and album because whatever. Then I'm scrolling on TikTok. First video in the feed, some random lady, barely any views, and it was like, "Come with me on my vacation to Exuma in the Bahamas." And I'm like, the artist is Exuma. That is the name. That is the name of the art. Like, I would have never remembered it. I'll have to link the album. It's really good, especially for like I feel like this time of year. And it's just I don't know, something in your tale made me think of that, where it's like, oh, like it felt like someone heard my request and sent it to me, and
Yeah.
it tripped me the fuck out.
I love that shit. Sorry, I just love it.
Okay, I knew you'd appreciate that.
Like those kinds of things that kind of just, I don't know. Yes, and exactly. And I mean, one of the big kind of skills in this practice, other than meditation, which is a huge part of being able to quiet enough to like even pay attention, is then once you're paying attention to like notice it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like no, you notice that happen. You noticed it on your feed. Like that's
Right.
really a big part of it. And that's where when you start doing it, you're like, oh man, this has always been happening through a bunch of different ways. And
Mm-hmm.
like at least that was my experience. Is I was like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, that's what this is.
Right.
I have no way to like prove who is sending the information or if it's a spirit or if it's, I don't know what. Like there's a lot of
Yeah.
options out there. That
So
is
many.
also why the seances, physical mediumship seances are so cool because it's actually like, oh, there's nothing else that could be really.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And just being in group and then having, in that same seance, because I have a really bad sense of smell, there was an orange peel smell that happened, which was like pretty surprising for me. Like, got your transfiguration over your eyes and cheekbones. And then I was getting like the trumpet had the like electrical tapey, glow rings, and those glow rings were like going off like a radio tower, which we can talk about that too. But the smell, even the smell component too, just being like, because it was like the kind of last major clue, that I saw in that moment. And
Totally. Actually, coming through scents is one of the first things that happened to me when I was young, like spirits coming through scents. Or I really love the like extra senses stuff. That's one of my big things is I love when it's not just, and that was an education for me to be like, I imagine when you did mediumship, you'd like either see a figure and they would talk to you. And it was like,
yes,
that's not really how it works. It's like so internal. And for me, there's a lot of physical sensations in the body happening.
yeah,
And then stuff like scent and taste, these, and that's sometimes more powerful even because it is not our typical senses. And like, I don't know, it's just, yeah, it kind of jolts you awake in a different way,
mm-hmm.
which is very cool.
It's like it's hard to not just be, as you mentioned, being a nerd. I'm just like, it's hard not to like just nerd out on it. And I'm really glad I've now in this space after telling all my friends all my Lily Dale stories. And maybe this is a good place to even come back. And I have 600 questions, but let me go to the residency a bit. Or if someone's listening and like wants to do stuff like this and like, is there going to be a next year? Is there going to be, what should people know? Does it, I think I was really pleasantly surprised when I was accepted, which I also like applied in the middle of the night and totally forgot. So when I got your email, maybe like 2 months later, I was like, oh yeah, like that thing, which was the perfect way as well, like sending this out into the ether. But as an astrologer, I was like pleasantly surprised to be accepted because I was like, oh, it's a different modality, but also, my project working title probably will be the title Stevie Symbols. It was about the Sabian symbols were channeled through a spiritualist medium and 100 years ago were conceived. So yeah, I'm just curious who would you like to put out maybe a call to, or maybe if there's a realm that might, a person or projects that might be welcome. I know you're very like welcoming Libra, so I'm like, I know you're not like this person not allowed, but yeah, I'm just curious what comes up when you think of who you would love to see doing these art things out in Lilydale.
Yeah, it's so funny. I never have a good answer for this because I'm like, but I know it when I see it, which I
Yeah.
hate that answer, but I'm like, it is such a niche thing
Mhm.
that I'm always, and the applications I've gotten have been so amazing. I really wish I could give absolutely everybody time there because it's like anything you can think of. Like what I really want is people who have projects that they think they can like make
Create.
yeah, exactly. Make progress with there. And so the only requirement I have is you have to physicalize, you have to
Mhm.
manifest the thing. And that's like my line of if I want something you that will be eventually tangible. And that I kind of talked about with mediumship for me, like the last step is it has to get out.
Right.
And so that's the thing. I want people who've got clear projects in their minds and think that something about mediumship and whatever that means for you
Right. Yeah.
will work there. And I've had writers and musicians and painters and sculptors.
Cool.
Uh,
Okay, you guys hear that? Come through. I'll put the links to everything as
yeah.
well. And I think, yeah, the cultivation and communication with the unseen, back to like even just the sort of original thing we were talking about with creativity, isn't that not
Yeah.
the unseen? Creativity in itself is the unseen.
Yeah.
And just, for me, just sitting, I think I sat on the boat pier thing, launched like the dock picnic area, like every day and just stared into water and the swan and like whatever came my way. And just so much would come through and like fast, which was also very, very cool. Um, this is I'm just curious, maybe because my first experience with the seance, had a little like moment of panic where I was like, that's a lot, like almost like being on drugs. Or like, oh no, is there an off button on this thing? Like I didn't know what I'm getting into. I'm just curious for like when people hear talking to the dead and connecting with spirit and this stuff, like if someone is, I know I'm like over explaining my question. I'm like, it's not even about skeptics because to me, even with astrology skeptics, I'm like, I'm not a like used car salesman. Like I don't care if you don't need to like astrology.
No, exactly.
Be weird if you're here. But if someone is interested but a little scared, and I think what my hesitation sometimes with this kind of work, or like every time I've gone to psychic reading, which psychics are different than mediums, they've been like, you're psychic or intuitive, like what's your deal? And it's like, I think it's my Catholic school reject that's like, there's something that does be like the devil, you or letting the bad spirits in, or air
Totally.
quote. I'm just
Yeah.
curious your thoughts if someone felt those fears but wants to dive into communicating with the dead. I'm just curious your thoughts on maybe folks that are a little scared of maybe the things institutions have told them to fear.
The dark side.
The
Yeah.
dark side. That's the white swap lady, the dark side.
That is important, right? Like that part is really important. And
Mhm.
I will say I didn't feel super supported in my feelings of those kinds of things in Lilydale, and that was something I sought out because I know plenty of traditions talk about it really openly, right? Like
Yeah.
most other traditions who talk to the dead do have an understanding that you can talk to things you don't want to talk to. And I think that's important because just like with living people, there are bad people that I don't want to talk to. And there are, there are good people I don't want to talk to, but like it's important to have that kind of discernment. And actually I went hard on it in the book. There's a whole chapter on safety, like a big chapter, for a bunch of reasons. I think it is an important part
Yeah.
to learn and to follow your fear kind of and pay attention to it because it'll probably teach you something. We all are in it for lessons, right?
Yeah.
And having tools and my like most baseline foundational thing is if when in doubt, treat the situation like there is a physical, living, visible human in front of you. What would you do? If you're feeling like I feel there's a ghost and they are freaking me out, pretend there is a ghost and you could imagine you're seeing it and it was a person, what would you do? Leave the room, tell them to leave, call somebody for help, right? Like,
Yeah.
just like believe yourself. I feel something. I'm going to do something about it. What are you going to do? And just let yourself deal with it the way you would with a regular person, which isn't going to make it easy, right? Sometimes it's hard to deal with people, but it takes it out of this world that's invisible and we feel like we have no power. Because we do have power and we can do things and we just have to remember that. So that's my like absolute bottom baseline
Yeah.
to start with. Like have faith in yourself and that you can take care of yourself and also make sure you have friends and help and know when to ask for help.
Yeah. That just made me like instinctually put like hand to heart. I'm like, oh yeah. Well, even like when I was having and this is why I share this because I don't know, as a former like retired party girl, like how many times I've seen friends who are having not a good time, but they're like, I didn't want to ruin the vibe. And like they're spiraling inside. And in that moment when I was with y'all and I just had like, just saw for the first time, the dead come through you, who I just, had coffee with and was having like a very different experience with only a short while before. I was like, oh, what would I do on drugs? I keep on like, what would I do if I was in this hide and stitch? It's like, oh, I would say I'm a little panicked right now. And everyone was like, all good. Like I was free to leave, it's like, no, the seance must continue. Like you are chained to the chair. So I think too, also probably being in, like you said, having friends, but also being in a place where you could freely say if something's tweaking you out or whatever. So I think that can be even like with astrology, and I made a whole episode about it earlier this year because this year's been crazy in many ways. When are things going to get good? When is things going to stop being bad? When's this? And this like good bad dichotomy, I think that even comes up with mediumship of like, it's like when do we even as people get like 100% good outcomes? Like I know again I'm talking to a Libra. It's like you got to have the balance, and not that anything has to be quote bad, but it's like knowing outcome is where we aren't in the knowing outcome era right now, in my opinion. Oh, this is a kind of intertwined question, but maybe this are your guides, maybe this is just has come through in this past year since we're rounding home on 2025. Do you think there's a message for 2026? Do you think that what has come through for you this year has pointed to any vibe check saying it could even just be a word or color? I'm just curious if anything comes up for 2026 and beyond. Have to always name it's too hard to not go Benenta with your beyond because it's just a great title as well. So
actually, yeah, I've been thinking a lot about this and I can simplify it to a word, which is I can't believe it's simplify. Sorry, I ruined my own punchline. It's simplify. That is what's coming up for me over and over and over. And I think it's just a time in life where the more we can kind of get to the essence of things, it'll make our lives a little better, I want to say. Easier is also a good thing, but I feel like a lot of our world is hyper complex and we all have so much going on. And when I get stuck right now and I'm looking into the future, I'm like, no, my decisions need to be kind of moving me towards just a little bit of simplicity. Let's take it down a notch on the complex.
I mean, that makes sense too with this year 2025 is a 9. It's the cycle ending. It's the Hermit in tarot, and then next year's a 1.
Yep.
It's the beginning. It's a fresh start. It's like you're saying, this like simplify, and then we're having the few days before I got to Lilydale, or right before Neptune, the planet we would probably, besides Pluto being like the planet of death and like dead people, Neptune is about other realms and spirituality and those not tangible earthy things, the more like out there, other realm, other spaces things. And it just moved into Aries it changed signs for the first time in 12 years when I just got to Lilydale. And it's retrograde back into Pisces, but it's going to go back into Aries next year. And Aries is again the first sign and about simplicity and just impulse and trusting your intuition and impulse. And Aries doesn't always get like the intuition association, but I think impulse is intuition and it just gets a more spicy like reaction, I guess. It's like you're impulsive. Simplify. Not that I can't love complex characters, but like where do we complicate it for our own selves and where can we
that's
get back
right.
to big?
So much natural complication. Where can we like
right.
get the extra out? And it's not easy, right? Simplifying's hard.
Totally. Sure, there'll be questions after this episode, so maybe there'll be like a Q&A we can circle back to if people submit their questions after hearing, because I feel like everything was so beautifully explained, but how do you not go further down the rabbit hole after what we've talked about? And then also, that's how I just felt after spending 2 weeks in Lilydale, where I was just like, oh, I'm like the unravel the thread.
There's a lot to work with, and I love questions, so I'm down.
Yeah, what do you hope maybe anyone listening who's wanting to get started, of course, to get beyond, but any other like thoughts, tips, tricks, final last call, things that just you have that are bubbling inside that you would love to share with the audience before we wind down?
Yeah, I mean, since it's spooky season, I cannot pass up the opportunity to mention all of the time we have right now where it's like culturally appropriate to talk to the dead in whatever little ways. And one of my favorite things is talking about like the normal ways we talk to the dead, and think about that in your life. Like, when do you kind of in your own mind maybe talk to somebody or just have interactions with things that people left behind? Like, I have a sweater that was my grandfather's and I love to wear it, and so I'm not necessarily talking to him, but I like wearing it and I think about him. And what do you have in your life that recalls your dead, your loved dead ones? Like, it could be family and ancestors, but it could be friends or neighbors or people you learned from, just who in your life. I mean, that's also pretty fun exercises, just, in a lighthearted way, thinking about those who have come before you when you have space for it, and then just spending some time remembering them, So I always just love to plug, develop your relationships with those who are gone, because I think it's different for everybody, but there's something about it that kind of adds a dimension to our lives that we can't really find anywhere else, I think.
We're gonna have to like do a whole like really astrology focus. Maybe this is a project we do or something. I'm thinking it out loud because I'm just thinking, in the 8th house in astrology is where we have like quote sex, death, and taxes, and like the things of resources and what we share with others. But everything you said about ancestors, right, is like this 4th house root foundation, and then of course then the 12th house. I mean, these are all houses that connect to each other. Is this also like subconscious? What is this sort of plane? So anyways, just had to, again, the downloads when they come in, just have to share that, where I'm like, oh, this needs like more attention, and maybe we can give that some attention. I'm just thinking I have my grandpa's like Bass Pro Shop shirt in my closet that I wear. It's like really cute. I'm like, this man was like a hipster. He's like doing this before the hipsters were doing it.
Yeah, my grandpa's is like this oversized cashmere, like tan cashmere sweater, which is also very hipster. And I was like, this is so hip.
Folks come to Lilydale. Should they find you? Feel free to shout out the call to actions, if you will.
All right. Yeah, definitely come to Lilydale. I mean, you can go there now, but it's cold. So
yeah, maybe summer season. I did love being there the few weeks before the season and having the kind of cozy, quiet life. And then the explosion.
Yeah, if you're in the area, it's always fun. Like, I definitely recommend stopping by if you're doing a bigger trip. Yeah, just, go when it's a little nicer. But you can also find me and my work online at Normalized Talking to the Dead. There's info about the residency there. If you sign up for the newsletter, I send very, very, like twice a year, I'll send updates with everything I'm doing and, the classes I'm doing a mediumship.
I'm here like, send more. We need more updates.
I know, I really need to send more. Yes, I agree. And on Instagram, Normalized Talking to the Dead. So
yeah. Oh, I love your mind and everything about you.
Thank you, Stevie. I love talking. Like, please, let's do this again.
I mean, we shall. And I didn't mean to be bossy to demand more newsletters out of you, but I do think I think people need them. Thank you so much. And I'll probably see some of y'all out in Lilydale.
Yeah, definitely.
I am hot. We gotta get out of here. Someone say a prayer. Let's hold hands.
Yep.
Can't see a thing here. I'm just gonna turn on the light.
Okay.
Just so it's easy. There we go.
There we go.
Grandmothers, grandfathers, ancestors, teachers, protectors, and guides, thank you for being with us here tonight. Thank you for helping us to expand our healing and our knowledge and our experience with you on the other side. We close this circle and know that we can open up any time in the future, but for now we walk away back into the human realm with gratitude. Amen.
I'm gonna run for the door.
Sweat lodge.